In today's world, we all know that marketing is the future and key to success of every business. Most of the companies do marketing in big cities, and that is the point where we lose the game. If we talk about opportunity in numbers, there are 6,40,000 villages in India. Rural population in India is about 65%, that's almost 90 crores. Now we all can imagine what opportunity we possess. Rural marketing is actually the future. So to enlighten us about rural marketing and opportunities in it, today KCC Institute of Legal and Higher Education welcomes Ms. Ekta Bhatt ma'am, who is in head marketing in Healthwares Dairy Private Limited. We welcome you, ma'am. Now I would kindly request Dr. Sunita Singhal ma'am to introduce our guest of the day.
Thank you, Saraswati. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
It's my,
afternoon.
it's my privilege to share a screen with you and my honor to introduce you to our audience. Good afternoon, everyone. Today's expert speaker, Ms. Ekta Bhatt, Head Marketing, Healthway Dairy, is a dynamic marketing professional with 19 plus experience of in-depth experience in marketing, branding, image building, rural marketing, sales and distribution, operations, merchandising, and this is not only for startup as well as for established media and manufacturing companies. She has invested her professional time in leading the marketing department to build and establish brand, set up new sales and distribution channels, increase business and user engagements, conversion rates, and brand recognition. She has expertise in image and brand building, advertising, PR, retail branding, digital marketing, packaging, pricing strategies, competition analysis, trade marketing, event management, rural marketing, media planning, trade markets, and corporate communication. She has always played a strong role in strategic planning and corporate affairs to augment business and growth. To sum up, Ms. Ekta Bhatt is a thorough professional with a proactive attitude and capable of thinking in and out of the box. Without much ado, I invite her to enlighten our viewers with her experience inputs. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Smita, ma'am. So, thank you, everybody. So, I would start my presentation. Can I share the screen now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure speaking to you all of you, everybody over there present. So I'd be enlightening you on certain aspects because rural is a very big market in India. I mean, as Ms. Saraswati clearly pointed out that around 65% of India's population is rural. So I would be speaking about like what are the companies doing, how they are going rural, and how are they tapping this market, the rural market. So basically the statistics, the trends which the companies are following, how they have penetrated in the rural market, because rural is a difficult terrain. That definitely is. I myself have worked in the rural domain in an agency for 5 years, and have, believe me, I've traveled to the nook and corner of the country in the remotest of the village to promote the brands, the leading multinational brands. Even all the multinationals are today pouring into the rural market because that is a big opportunity and easily, it is not very easily accessible. But the thing is, once you are able to access the rural markets, you have big monies lying out over there. So let me go to the presentation about telling about the Indian scenario. I mean, we have a country of around 138 crore population, and around 34 crore Indians reside in 6,50,000 of the villages. And the total kilometer of India is 32 lakh square kilometers, and India sustains around 17% of the world population. And out of this 17% of world's population, 65% is in rural India. So you can understand what big opportunities lies in rural domain. So if some company gets the rural domain right, I mean, I am in touch completely with the rural markets, because being in a dairy industry, dairy is again one of the sectors dominated in the rural market. So when you say the rural markets, rural sector is comprised of agriculture and non-agricultural subsectors. When you say agri sector, it comprises of the crop cultivation, animal husbandry, dairying, fishery, poultry, forestry. And when you say the non-agri subsector, then the rural cottage industries, village khadi industries, all this comes in the rural domain. And even the rural population in villages are very, very varied. And only 4,000 villages have a population of more than 10,000. See, the reason why the companies ignored rural markets earlier was because of this varied population, because they were not getting a good congregation of people. And it was very, the transportation cost, the logistics costs are very high as compared to the urban counterparts. But still, it's a very big market, still untapped, and it has a lot of potential. 1.5 lakh villages out of the 6.5 lakh villages which are there in the country have a population only between 500 to 1,000. And but still, the government incentives are very good. Now the with the coming of the Modi government also, people have started, the concentration of the government has moved on to the to the rural sector. And around 90% of the rural India is well connected by the roads, so that transportation and logistics has become now relatively easier to penetrate into the rural market. Because of many reasons. You can say the corona reason right now, but apart from that, because of the many reasons, the disposable income of the people and everything, the consumer product remains sluggish throughout in the urban areas. But the rural markets are growing very faster. And even in the some of the largest economies, you would be surprised to know that in China, the demand in the rural areas have outstripped the urban areas demand. And in countries as China, Mexico, South Africa, rural residents report being more optimistic about the future wage increases. The because of the government incentives also, and the other reasons, and because of opportunities and employment opening up in the rural sectors, the wages have risen in the rural market as compared to urban sectors. And Nielsen, ORG Nielsen, everybody must be knowing, it's a big, it's a big firm, a big research firm, and according to their surveys, consumption is in rural area is growing, and it is expected to hit around 100 billion by 2025. $100 billion, I guess. Now let us first understand what do we mean by rural. How we define rural markets. What is a rural market? So a rural market primarily should have these three criteria. It should meet these three criteria. Population should be less than 25,000 people in that particular village. Density of population should be less than 400 people per square kilometer. And more than 25% of the male working population should be engaged in agricultural pursuits. So if any area or region falls in these three criteria, then it can be safely regarded as a rural area. And we consider in our country that as a rural area. This definition is from the Indian context, Indian point of view. Now, the thing is, actually rural population, because of greener pastures in the urban areas, and because of other regions, because of in search of employments, and now the people do not want to go into the agriculture sector, rural population has started moving into the urban areas, and there has been a decline in the rural percentage. In 1901, where it was around 89% of the people of India were living in the rural areas, it is just 63% today in 2019. So over the 119 years, the decrease has been from 89% to 63%. But still, I would say rural is still a very big market, untapped market in India. And if the companies properly fall into this market, there are big opportunities for the company in this area. I've already spoken about this, but still, on telling further, rural markets have remained untapped because of the three challenges. One was the distances in going. The logistic costs would be very high, and it's almost a nightmare, because they're in this reaching out to the 7.8 million retail outlets, which are spread in across 6.5 lakh villages. Then there should be a very steep network of distribution, and distribution is a nightmare. So distance has been one of the factors. Again, the population size, which I have already spoken, that there are varied population sizes in different villages, and so going over there, reaching them is again a nightmare. And third point is like in some rural areas, when you go to Punjab and all these areas, the disposable income of the rural people are quite high. But for the other poorer states like West Bengal, Orissa, Bihar, Jharkhand and all, the rural per capita income is very low, and so it remains a heterogeneous market. So even the companies are very intelligently choosing which states rural market they should foray into, they should go into. Government has been like really helping the rural sector, and they have taken out a lot of schemes. In 2005, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Scheme was introduced, and in this the focus was that they would provide jobs to the rural people. Around whosoever contributed, whosoever are willing, they would be providing 100 days out in 365 days. Out of 100 days, they should be getting the employment, and if they're not getting the employment, they should get the wages for 100 days. But the thing is, this scheme is just implemented in around 10 states right now. But this is a good opportunity. If the government really goes with this scheme, forward with this scheme, the state governments, then this has a huge potential. More jobs would be created in the rural sector, and then people wouldn't be moving out from the rural to the urban areas. The NABARD, the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, has also agreed to provide around 2 lakh point of sales machines in 100 lakh villages to make the transaction cashless. Today, the world is about cashless transaction. So the NABARD is also planning that in 1 lakh villages, they would distribute around over to the 34 million farmers the RuPay cards. Then the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, providing housing for all by 2022. It was launched in 2015. Under this scheme, what is the scheme is that whosoever has a land and all in the rural areas, and they can get a subsidy of around from the bank loans around 1 to 2.5 lakh rupees to build up their houses in which a toilet is necessary. The government of India has also installed Wi-Fi spots under its ambitious projects, and the mission program of constructing 133 kilometers of roads per day in the rural areas is also under the scheme. And electrification has already been done in 100% villages of India. The rural road connectivity also, I have told about this, that it is a key component of rural development, and it has promoted access to economic and social services and thereby generated increased agricultural incomes. India also has one of the largest road network, and under the programs, the road network transports around 64.5% of all goods in the country, and 90% of India's total passenger traffic uses road network to commute. There are trains, there are flights and all, but for the rural area, primarily roads are used, and government is focusing on building up roads in the rural areas. So, say about the Indian context, rural consumers are particularly aspiring or striving to purchase branded high quality products. So now, because of the internet and because net reaching to different mobile phones reaching to different rural consumers, people have become more rural people have become very brand conscious, and they look at their urban counterparts as an image building people, and so they strive to achieve what the urban counterparts have achieved. That is why businesses have, even many companies have started going into the rural market, and the growth over here is expected to be much faster than the urban consumer markets. There's an interesting trend that there is better networking among rural consumers, and their tendency to seek information via multitude sources, and they are better informed than their urban counterparts while they are making the purchase decision. So if any company has got the key that they can send their information and dissipate their knowledge about their products in the rural areas, they will have a better loyalty and better loyal consumer base. Then the media and telecommunication services has also helped in context to the Indian rural consumer, and it is influencing their purchase decisions, which involves aspects of price combined with utility, aesthetics, and features, and not just low prices. So the thing is that it is not that companies are only focusing on the low prices. Yes, rural market is very price sensitive, and they want to first of all make comparison and then buy the products, but still there are certain aspects of their utility. If a company, when you come to the consumer goods, if the company can tell about the utility of the features, the aesthetics, the features, then they can make a conscious decision of buying a better product rather than just focusing on the prices. And consumption patterns have, as I said, the more job opportunities are being created in the rural areas. So the thing is, people are buying more of the products, and the consumption patterns in this rural areas have increased gradually. The FMCG sector is expected to reach around $100 billion by the $100 billion by end of 2025. And the market was only $9 billion USD in 2009. So from 2009 to 2019, around 67% rise is there in the fast moving consumer goods sector. So among the leading retail, Dabur generates around 40 to 45% of its domestic revenue from rural sales. HUL drives around 45% of its overall sales from the other companies, and they earn around 30 to 35% of their revenues from rural areas. These are the market size and the opportunities of the rural market. The rural market is also getting connected, as I earlier told, by the basic telecommunication services, and they are now having increased penetration of computers and smartphones. There are like around more than 30 crore sets right now in the rural market. So this is kind of potential of the rural market. And the internet is a cost-effective means for a company looking to overcome geographical barriers and broaden its reach. So rural is going digital now. So what are the strategies the companies are adopting for the rural India? So the companies see price is an important part in the rural area. So price sensitivity is there, but apart from the price sensitivity, they are making their products more rural friendly. I mean, the features are more geared. Of the product should be more geared to suit the local requirements. So the companies are doing a lot of researches on what kind of utility of product is required in the rural market, and accordingly changing their product designs and then penetrating into the rural India. Okay, yes, when we are speaking about the FMCG sector, for more usage and for more trial generations, the products are kept at low price, and the volume, the packaging size is also, the SKU size are also small out over there. So that is one of the important aspects which the company is also trying. Then the companies are also trying with microfinances firms and the giving subsidies, and also they are giving easy installment plans, easy payment plans, easy EMIs, so that people can buy the products. I did a campaign for Tata Motors while I was with Impact Communication. That was way back in 2006. So I had, gone to all the mandis. Mandis is a point where all the farmers come across and they sell their produce out, right? So I had gone to mandis with this company, with Tata Motors, and you'd be, surprised. I was myself surprised at that particular point of time. In one day, in one mandi of Punjab, around 100 Maruti, small Maruti, these cars, the small cars, they were booked in a day. Around 100 bookings used to be coming. The reason being that Tata was giving them easy payment plans, easy EMI options, and at Mandi the people have a lot of income because they are selling their produce and they're getting the money out over there. So the thing is, they can easily make the down payment, and they were booking their cars, which was, an amazing revelation at that particular point of time. And I'm speaking that this of way back in 2005. The companies are also engaging the public distribution systems of the government, the petroleum outlets, mandis, hearts. So hearts are the rural markets out over there. Once in a week, just like even if you are in, say, Delhi, in different markets, the small market where all the vegetable vendors and all these vendors are coming and they're selling their produce. In the same way, in villages, it's a big affair. In villages around, in these hearts, these people, they, all the buyers and sellers, they come at one single point. Buyers are the villages and the sellers are the companies and the FMCG people, the people who are selling different vegetables, fruits, all the requirement here which is required in a home, and they collect at one place, and the buying and the selling happens out over there. So big companies like GSK at that point of time for IDEX and Hearts, I've done a lot of campaigns in Hearts, and I've visited a lot of Hearts. It's a very interesting place and very lively place. And so different companies are tapping this Hearts and Mandis markets and the petroleum outlets to increase their distribution base. The see, because of the limited literacy level, the traditional media which are used out over there, so papers and newspapers will not be that effective in the real rural segment. So the thing is, personal selling works over there. Sometimes small hoardings and all will work. So the selection of traditional media has to be done very wisely when we are doing the strategies for rural India. When you are saying about the communication, if you write a lot of information, people wouldn't be able to read. So it has to be more pictographic. It has to be depicted in pictures and all, the communication part. So that helps. That is one of the strategies which rural India is adopting while communicating with the rural audience. Now, word of mouth is a real strong thing in rural areas because people have more time over there. They are, unlike the urban people, they are more connected with each other, and they trust. Even if some person in the village has made a name for himself, maybe a teacher or a healthcare professional or other community person, if they speak about the brand, then it makes a huge impact in the mind of the rural people. So they follow there's a lot of, they follow their ideals, and whatever these people would tell, they would, without any arguments, accept their observations and experimentations. So the thing is, word of mouth plays a real strong in building brands in rural areas. Tata Motors, for example, has tapped the local teachers and health professionals and mechanics. And these people, these people refer potential consumers to its dealers, furnishing them with the detailed product manuals and product manuals so that which are placed outside their homes, and they are designated as motor dadas. So what is Tata Motors doing? That they are tapping the local teachers, health professionals, basically training them, and now these people become their brand ambassadors in the villages, and they refer to the mechanics and to the dealers, the potential consumers. So they are the motor dadas or the auto experts, and this is how they are spreading their communication and spreading the awareness about Tata Motors. Now, what Ashok Leyland is also engaging in this particular kind of an activity where they are engaging truck drivers by asking their opinion on vehicle design. Now, the thing is, when you ask a villager what kind of vehicle you should make and what, the driver really feel important, empowered, and they become favorably disposed towards the Ashok Leyland brand. The company capitalizes on the goodwill with a program called Ban Jao Malik, become an owner, and which helps achieve self-employment by buying their own vehicle. So the thing is, Tata, when Ashok Leyland has realized that many of the young generation young population out in rural areas, they are seeking a job or they are seeking some kind of employment. So they basically are promoting this campaign Ban Jao Malik, where they do the microfinancing, and basically they make them partners, and they make them purchase their own vehicles, and also they train mechanics on new products, provides tools, certifies participation, and all the stuff. So this is how they are engaged. I mean, companies are engaging influencers in the villages. So they choose an influencer in the village itself, train them, and basically use them to influence other people, the common population in the rural market. Now, after sales promise, when you say after sales promise, it's a very important thing. Unlike in the urban areas where the companies sell their products, and if a showroom or somebody, if they do not keep the promise, I mean, you will only lose one consumer, probably. But if a company does such a thing in a village, then they will lose out villages together. I mean, 4-5 communities are so tightly, they are connected with each other, so that if you make a wrong commitment to a single person out over there, the entire villages, not only village, but the other villages which are connected with that particular village, the company will lose, and they will be banned from entering that market. So the thing is, the firms are doing their best to keep their after sales promise, and they are investing in this kind of after sales promise. They are delivering their services at lower costs and with innovative approaches. They are very, very careful with the rural counterpart in fulfilling these brand promises, and aligning their long-term interest with the development of local communities in both small and large ways. Like what has Ashok Leyland done, that it has set up a medical center in Hosur in Tamil Nadu, where drivers can get the free checkups and consultations. Then there is another program, All the Best, a scholarship program by Ashok Leyland, which is launched in 2010, and where the scheme has benefited around 650 deserving children in 2 states so far. Eicher is also doing this kind of initiatives. I mean, the thing is that from every state, every village, they choose one child, and they basically fund and fund the child for their education, the girl child, till class 12th, which gives a positive brand image in that particular village and the surrounding villages. Retaining customers is also a big deal, because once the after sales promise is fulfilled, you can retain consumers, you can make more consumers. Under the scheme, the manufacturer, this Mahindra, they have successfully launched a Samriddhi initiative, and in this, what they have done, that in this I'll explain to you what is this Samriddhi initiative. In this, what has happened, that Mahindra has taken some around 3 to 3.5 lakh rupees from the dealer of the surrounding area which is catering to 3, 4, 5 villages, and they have used this money to develop the infrastructure of the dealer, and they also provide a host of other topics and services, information on whether the crop prices, the soil irrigation, water testing facilities, and farm productivity. These are topics which are very important to the villagers. And so these people, the villagers, this flock to these centers of Mahindra, the dealer centers, to get the information. And once they get the information, everything, if somebody has to buy a Mahindra tractor or some agri equipment of Mahindra's, then obviously they will buy it from Mahindra's and not go to other other companies. So in this way, Mahindra is also doing a kind of a CSR activity, and they have helped more than 3 lakh farmers, and it aims to increase to around 10 lakh by 2020. I mean, 2020 is not done well, so it should be by 2021. Tata, see, I'll tell you this, this kind of initiatives has been also taken in the dairy sectors. All the dairy companies, be it Amul, be it Mother Dairy, be it private companies like where I have worked, like Ananda or Paras, these are the big companies of North India, or any other companies in the South India. They do this kind of CSR activities in the villages, because this dairy companies, what they procure milk from the villagers. Okay, so they have their own centers, the chilling centers and the collection units in the villages. So when they are going in the villages, they are not only going to buy the milk from the villages, but they are giving certain extension services to the villages. That can be artificial insemination. They have round the clock vet people with them, who, if any animal or if any cattle, they are not well or something, so they can get treated by these vets free of cost. And because of this, loyalty is induced towards the brand, so if they're selling their milk to the center of Amul or Mother Dairy or Ananda or anybody, and if they're getting this kind of services, the free services from the company, obviously they will not for a little increase in price or something, they will not go to other centers and sell their produce, I mean, which is the milk in this case. So this is how it is. I mean, all the companies are doing extension services, the CSR services for the farmers, to bring in the loyalty factors of the farmers for their brand. In 2006, citing one of the examples, Tata Global Beverages also, they established a non-profit project called Gaon Chalo Abhiyan. Let's go to the village. And that was with the setup with the dual purpose of marketing the tea in the rural areas and supplementing the incomes of small business owners and vulnerable members of the community. So what does the Tata Global Beverages are they doing? They are also providing the tea at a cost that will yield an attractive margin to the shopkeepers, and also they are engaging people from the villages, like single mothers, physically challenged individuals, unemployed youths, widows, retirees, where they basically connect them with the retailers, and they can take these products from the retailers and sell it to door to door in their own village and sell the products. Since these people, they are well known in the villages, and the villagers also want to help their individuals, I mean, they buy more of Tata tea. So this is how the incentives are done. I mean, HUL also launched a Fal Didi project. In this, basically they used to appoint one lady from the village, educate, train them about the features of the Fair and Lovely, and used to make her the brand ambassador. And this brand ambassador in turn used to do the selling for the products, the small SKUs and the other kind of SKUs product in the villages. So Fal Didi is a very, very big concept for HUL, and that is how Fair and Lovely could establish itself in the rural market. So this is the, now ITC again has come out with a very unique way. It has come with the concept of e-chopals. See, when it comes to the distribution network and urban food distribution, see, there are three kind of network. Okay, so what is the conventional network of distribution? The conventional network of distribution is that the company makes the produce, the manufacturing unit, it makes the produce, then it goes to the, they appoint a stockist or a super stockist in a state, and from the super stockist, the product goes either to the wholesaler or the distributors, and from the distributor to the retailers. So this is a model which most of the manufacturing companies are following, excepting Amway or somewhere which is going directly to the consumer. So they have a multi-level marketing and they are doing in a different way, but most of the manufacturing company follow this kind of model. So in where a population of a rural area, so what has ITC done? ITC has segregated different kind of villages, and in different kind of villages it's following different kind of strategies. So in rural areas where population is of between 10 to 20,000, where transportation infrastructure is developed, but the thing is the demand is not enough for a traditional distributor to go and supply this product. What they do is they make small distributors where the company directly supply to the sub distributors. So they bypass this the stockist and the distributors, and they supply their vehicle, the company vehicles come and supply directly to the sub distributors, and the sub distributors, they buy a narrow assortment of products. They will not keep all the products, they will keep only those products which are geared to the local tastes. So this is how ITC is doing in a villages which has populations of around 10,000 to 20,000 people. Now coming to the more sparsely populated areas, like around 1.5 lakh villages fall in this category, where the people are like between 5,000 to 10,000 population. They still have good roads, and in these cases, in these villages, what ITC has done now, it has surpassed even the sub distributors also. They have their own vans, and they make a route plan where they cater to around one particular van would be catering in one particular day 5, 7, 8 villages, and they have their adequate rule, they have all their equipments and gadgets at place. So the thing is, they make a route plan and they get their orders from the retailers. They supply directly to the retailers, and the retailers now order the stock for the local consumer through the using the mobile technology, the internet, and the vans make regular visits up to 3 times a week. So it can be 3 times, it can be 2 times, depending upon the orders which they get and depending upon the route plan. And now, but they are still also, ITC also is also not leaving the smaller villages, the sparsely populated villages which has no paved roads. So now over here, what they do is they serve this villages through 2 or 3 wheelers. What happens this, when I said they go to this weekly hearts also, and also they have some retail kiosks in the villages where they basically carry small SKU sizes products and small at a lower prices. So basically they're catering to all the parts of rural India, the sparsely populated, the very sparsely populated, the populated areas between 5 to 10,000, and even population which is having to 10 to 20,000. So they are having a 3-tier kind of strategy in distribution when it is reaching out to the rural audiences. They are completely bypassing the traditional method of the conventional stockist, super stockist of the state, then the distributors, the wholesalers, and all this model. Right? So these are the strategies adopted by ITC. And they also have come up with the concept of e-chopals, which is the village meeting place. Again, just like the hearts and everything which I told, hearts is actually spread over a big market area. So what is the over here, what they have created is a marketplace which they have created in the village. In this, basically they hire the concept of e-shop is that they hire some influencer of the village, which I spoke over the influencer. One influencer of the village, he can really influence the entire population of the village, and people would really look up to him to make their major to meet their major requirements. So they are opinionated because of this influencer. So what ITC has done, they have hired these influencer even the premises of the influencer, and they have opened a small place where basically they have kept a desktop computer and internet. They have provided internet facilities, and the thing is, all the market prices, the mandi prices and all the of the produce and all, they it comes on this over there, the information comes over there. So whatever, now the farmers do not have to go to the, especially to the mandis or the markets or the brokers or the middlemans to sell their produce. They come to directly to the e-chopals, and this influencer gets the money out of the incentives, which whenever there is a transaction made, he gets some part of the incentive. So as some part of the as a commission he gets. And there are also other products of ITC over there, and people can buy directly from those e-chopals also. So this is the concept of e-chopals, and basically the information is on the weather, scientific farming practices, and the marketplace and different, and it is also providing the local languages of the people, which makes it easy to understand. And the cost of setting this e-chopal is around is under 3 lakh rupees per village, and it is about like rupees 10,000 to annually maintain them. And it was launched in June 2000, and till now they have covered around 40,000 villages and across 8 states like MP, Karnataka, AP, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand, Tamil Nadu, and they have plans to cover around 1 lakh villages, or 1/6 of rural India within a decade, which is a big number. See, this e-chopal concept is, it's again coming to my milk industry. This similar concept is also followed by milk industry. Like the e-chopal, they have engaged an influencer for the procurement of farmers. How do in the milk industry, how does the milk comes to the company? How do the people, the company buy this milk? What happens that every household would have some cattle over there, and then what the companies do, they go to they select a particular village which has a decent population size of the cattle, and where they do a market do a village survey, and they are confident that they would be getting around minimum 100 to 200 liters of milk in that particular village. So they speak to one of such influencers, they install their machine out on that particular in the house of this influencers, and basically the village collection unit starts. So all the farmers, whosoever wants to sell 5 liters or 3 liters or 10 liters of their milk, they come in the morning and in the evening, which is the milking time of the cattle. After the milking time of the cattle, they come, they make a line, they sell their milk out over there in this to this particular person, and they are paid on fat and SNF percentage, and that is how they the buying and the selling happens over there. So it is a concept similar to e-chopal, and through this person, through this influencer which they have engaged in the village, they carry out the extension services of vets, providing vets to the farmers, the cattle feed and everything. So this basically this village collection units also sell cattle feed at a very subsidized rate. the Godrej now they have also adopted its own strategy, and in inaccessible villages. Again, I spoke to you about the rural heart and the melas and religious congregation. At one point of time, I mean, the rural hearts and mela, the fairs and religious congregations in villages are very, very important points. These are the points where if the rural weekly rural heart is happening in a village, then you can be sure that every household of the village will visit this rural heart, because this is the place, this is the only time when they can buy their produce, when they sell their produce, and basically where they can exchange things with the other, there are other counterparts. So this weekly rural hearts, the melas, now again mela is the only point of enjoyment in these village areas. So the local fairs and which are there, so every villager would visit these melas, fairs and these religious congregations. And so what the companies do, they basically have their own mobile vans and everything, so they visit these rural hearts, the rural melas, and then they sell their produce. This is how Horlicks, which is a very big brand, but you would be surprised to know that regularly there is a van, and I have conducted this campaign for GSK, for Horlicks brand. Basically, they have their mobile van and they're going into this hearts every weekly, and they have a route plan. So the thing is, they will choose 6 or 7 hearts in a week and happening on different days, and every day their van filled with the produce and the whatever they're selling. Like if they're selling Horlicks, it will be a van with the Horlicks and all, stocked with Horlicks and with all the SKUs. They uh, would be visiting this rural market, set up their unit and sell the products, and I mean sells like hotcakes over there, because people at that times they have that kind of mental frame that they are visiting these arts and markets because they want to buy the produce. They're obviously they're coming for the enjoyment factor also, but 90% are disposed to buy the product. So when they come, they buy these products, and I mean this is how the Godrej or maybe Horlicks or Iodex, they're reaching to the rural markets. Companies are also tying up with ICICI, I mean, with the big banks and everything. Like ICICI banks are tying up with dairy companies now. Since I'm in the dairy sector, it's a topic which is very close to my heart. So the thing is that ICICI Lombard has tied up with Hudson Agro Products in Chennai and Raja Ram Babu Dairy in Maharashtra. Actually, because the ICICI Lombard, they have their own branches and everything in this in villages. I mean, sorry, the because as I told you, the procurement of this in the dairy people have their own centers in these villages. So ICICI Lombard, when they want to have their sell their cattle insurance policies and all, their people sit in this particular hubs of dairy companies in the villages, and they sell their policies. And obviously the influencer, the person who is having his own VLC, I mean village collection unit, so they basically take commission from these companies. So they offer long loans. This ICC Lombard, they are offering loans for cattle purchase, and also and they have their cattle insurance schemes. So this is how the ICC Lombard is reaching out to the rural population at very low cost. Now we are speaking about the Tata Motors, how they have penetrated. I've told you before also that I did a campaign for Tata Motors in the mandis and all, but apart from that, that was that are the add-on ways in which they are reaching out to the rural population. The strategy is basically, again, they are hiring and training local residents of the villages, who becomes the Tata Motors Gram Mitras, the village advisors. And they also work on this commission basis only to generate leads for existing dealers, sales team. In addition, Tata Motors have formed partnerships with local gas station owners and who also earn commissions, and actually they provide lead to the consumer to the dealers of the Tata Motors, and once the person, and they also influence the villager to buy Tata Motor product, and once the purchase is made by the villager or the farmer, the Tata Motors pay them commissions or profit partnership they have this to this gas station owners. And basically because of this way, this is how they have gone in the rural market, and it has increased the sales of Tata Motors small commercial vehicles by 20%. And they started with piloting the program in 6 states, and now the company is rolling out nationally and expecting to sell an additional 70,000 vehicles in rural market annually, bringing in $500 million in revenue. Now coming to Vodafone, how they are now going into the rural market. Basically what they have done, they have also selected people in the rural area, and they've painted their house or their store red, and these are the mini stores or known as the Lal Dukan. Now what they are doing, the local, they have invested, they have just given 35 to 50,000 rupees to Vodafone, and Vodafone are taking care of all the branding activities, the branding, they're painting the shops and training these people to feed to all the telecom needs of the customer within an 18 to 30 kilometer radius, from sales to connectivity to technical support. And now this network has been so successful that 94 million rural subscribers are served by around 5,500 red stores, and they constitute 60% of Vodafone's consumer base. So see, this 60% of Vodafone consumer base is coming from the rural segment. Again, one of the banking services like Fino Paytech, they have again identified these self-employed bandhus or the influences or the banking correspondents in the villages. So they choose one person, train them with give them the appropriate technology, and they became the front face, the face where all the bank activities like opening of the account, lending monies, providing insurance, remittances for rural consumers. So basically this person becomes the front end operation from the bank in that particular villages. So they have employed 38,000 bandhus, and they have 38,000 villages they has come into fold of like this. Coming to Airtel, now again, because everybody is rural telecom sector is a very big sector, and what has Airtel has basically applying for Bharti Airtel is applying for a payment bank license and has involved Kotak Mahindra Bank as a potential investor in the venture. So basically why they have involved the Kotak Mahindra Bank is like they can get the they've tied up with Kotak Mahindra Bank, and payment banks are meant to fan out into the rural remote areas of the country, offering limited but critical services such as money transfers, loans and deposit collection. While banks have the know-how, telecom companies have the network, making it an ideal combination of the match. So basically they have tied up with banks, and telecom and companies are tying up together, and banking activities becomes easier getting done in these villages because of the network available made available by the telecom sector. Maruti is again now what has happened. Maruti see, every company is identifying different consumer base also in the rural areas. When Maruti Suzuki did a small survey, and they identified distinctive clusters, like who would be the potential car buyers. So they found out that in a small town in Tamil Nadu, the turmeric farmers, they had the money and the apple growers in Himachal Pradesh also. They have the money, and they, I mean, most of the months around from this one villages they get 30 to 50 vehicles sales, and during the harvest season season the numbers double. So basically they have identified different clusters, and they are targeting these clusters, communicating to them in different ways, and getting the sales from these clusters, because they have the disposable income and the money and the immediate money, and they have the kind of a mission basically to make it to for a better lifestyle. So they are buying these products, and Maruti Suzuki has identified these clusters. What has Dabur done now? Dabur, I mean, for their their healthcare company, they have identified 287 prosperous districts in 10 states, because these are the districts which would has a good high disposable income. And after establishing foothold in the area in a test and learn approach to a building scale, Dabur uses GIS maps integrated with economic data to identify a fresh cluster for its distribution network each month, deploying route planning software to optimize deliveries. Again, I have already spoken about it, like Tata Motors, when they interviewed around like more than 2,000 rural users. They are, when I said that they are identifying new clusters of people. So the thing is, Tata Motors, they came across a very novel idea that this 20, they are underemployed youth of between 21 to 30 years old, and they are seeing some viable means of self-employment. So the thing is, they push the small, they have done microfinancing, and they have pushed small commercial vehicles of theirs and a Tata Ace or something. And so the family involved in large agriculture sector also, who are seeking additional income, and shopkeepers, small businesses and schools, they are looking for local transport for students and supplies. So they have basically reached out to these people, and they have given it in easy installment the vehicles, small commercial vehicles like Tata Ape and all this stuff, and they are getting a good potential consumers out in these villages, and they, I mean, they can sell easily to them. Coca-Cola has done a very interesting campaign in rural India. Basically, what they have done, they have organized a training program for the retailers. What they have done, they do it through different models operandi. What the basic one is like a classroom kind of a teaching class, where they have modified vehicle into a classroom teaching thing, and they go to the, first of all they engage the retailers and all that, they tell them they have a schedule beforehand, and basically they visit these retailers, and they invite few retailers of the within a area to 5 to 7 kilometers, and they have a classroom in the vehicle itself, and basically they are teaching and training the retailers how to manage their shop, to stock the, and how to be consumer friendly, what are the financials involved, and how to do the merchandising and everything, and how to increase their skills in basically setting up small units in the village itself. And in return, these people, they keep the products, and what they have also provided them is they have made bright red solar powered coolers. So in many villages now, even though electricity is available in the villages, I mean, there's a lot of power cuts and all. So basically, cold drink can only be kept when you have this chest coolers and everything. So Coca-Cola have provided bright red solar powered coolers, and they have their logo in that. And basically, this is a boon in these areas where merchant can keep the cold drinks now. And this provision of solar coolers, which they give at very nominal rates, this has led to a five-fold increase in Coca-Cola's rural retail sales. I mean, even milk companies, they are giving this chest cooler to their partners and all. And but over there, electricity becomes a prime problem. But this because of the giving of the solar chest coolers, I mean, Coca-Cola has got a very good brand name, and the rural sales has increased many folds. Again, pharma company Novartis, what they are doing is uh, they are focusing on the health issues affecting rural women and children, like about clean water, about sanitation, undernourishment, iron deficiencies, vaccination, tuberculosis, diabetes, and they recruit health educators out in the villages. Again, they choose people, they educate them, and these educators, they are local women, and because people generally listen to local women and they're trusted by the community. And the thing is, they not only sell their prescription drugs also, but basically they are doing CSR activity, and they are giving the remedies which may be of competition also. But basically it's a building a good brand name for Novartis. And Arogya Parivar is again a very big campaign of Novartis. So people, it's not that just for companies are also foraying into rural markets, doing CSR activities, and in the way forging a bond with their future consumers. Today, Novartis has 530 educators and supervisors working in 10 states. And the health educators have reached around 33 villages, and they have helped millions of people. The supervisors have distributed pharmaceuticals, not only Novartis' own drugs, but also generics, vaccines, and other over-the-counter remedies to almost 39,000 doctors and more than 29,000 pharmacies. And because there were many complexities in the program, it was not easy because health education is very difficult. But still, the program broke even in 30 months, and the Novartis estimated in its 2013 revenue at $4.8 million. I mean, because of this Arogya Parivar success, Novartis has now expanded this concept in markets like Kenya, Indonesia, and Vietnam. This is all right now for the rural market from my side. So if you have any questions and or queries, I'm there to answer. So
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing this information about rural marketing. We'll begin with the question answer session with the students had. So my first question is, due to linguistic diversity, we cannot use same campaign in different villages. So
yeah.
does it affect the cost of overall campaign, or how the companies manage it?
So it does not affect the overall cost. See, every companies, what they do, they hire an agency of their own. Okay, so whosoever is going into the rural market, because first of all, they have to do it in the linguistic language, as you have correctly pointed out. But all the creatives and everything, this is taken care by the agencies in the different languages in the states which their company has selected. Suppose in Tamil Nadu, it has to be Tamil, and in different languages in Orissa, it has to be Oriya, and in Bengal, it has to be Bengali and everything. So that communication language, changing the communication in the local language is not a very expensive or a big exercise. And basically when these companies, they are going into the different states and different rural markets of different states, they engage the operational agencies of that local operational agencies they engage. So the cost doesn't come high, because if I have to do a campaign in, suppose in Calcutta, suppose in Bengal, and another campaign in Tamil Nadu, I will not engage the same agency. Either I will engage a very big agency who will have branches both in Bengal and Tamil Nadu, or I will engage different agencies, operational agencies who has operations only in Bengal and who has operations only in Tamil Nadu. So this way, the operation cost comes down a lot. So it's not very expensive going to different villages and with different communication and different languages. It is not.
Okay, thank you
Once
so
you
much,
all
ma'am.
set out, it is not.
My second question is how infrastructural situation impact the rural market activities?
I think
Infrastructure.
that was everything what my PPT spoke about. Infrastructure in rural areas. Basically, see, when we are speaking about the infrastructure, first we have to understand how the companies, what are the infrastructure required by the company to promote their things in the village, to promote their goods. So what are the infrastructure which is required? The infrastructure which should be required is the distribution system, one. So for that it has to be good linkages of roads and how they can enter into the rural markets. Secondly, a place in the rural market itself where they can show off their product or sell their product. Buying or selling space should be there. These are the basic infrastructures which is required. You don't require a very big infrastructure for anything. So the companies are having different models now to reaching out to overcoming this kind of things. So like ITC have set up their e-chopals. The milk companies, they set up their own infrastructure. Suppose if my company is building an infrastructure in a remote village of UP, it will not cost more than 40 to 50,000, because first of all they choose the house of an influencer. Okay, so the house of the influencer, and they convert that into their own. They do a little bit of branding, and they put their own machines or whatever POS machine is required or any other kind of instrument which is required, or they have to make some racks to showcase their products. So the cost on an average comes to around 70 to 75,000 rupees per village, which is not a very high cost. I mean, company does spend this kind of monies. So the
Right.
infrastructure, I mean, it's not a very big challenge today with the network, the road network being built by the government. So it's not a very big challenge today.
Right. Thank you so
Yes.
much, ma'am. My third question to you is that there are a lot of brands that looks alike are available, but providing a low cost option to the rural customer, many a time the rural customer may not be aware of the differences due to illiteracy. So how to deal with this kind of problems?
I couldn't get the first part of your question. Could you please repeat that?
Like there is a brand called Puma. So when
Yeah, yeah,
we
okay, yeah,
yes. So when we
yeah.
provide a low cost option to the rural customer, so at that time the rural customer may not be aware about the difference due to their illiteracy. So how to deal with that kind of problem?
See, for the for a brand like Puma or something, I mean, where they have to see, first of all, the high-end shoes would not sell much in villages, because when you have to go to a particular remote village, then you will have to see the economies also, like how many people would be buying and how many people would be able to afford it. So they will have to make a product which would be very suited to the local requirements. Okay, so the thing that R&D Puma has to do. So they would be doing that, and they will have low cost shoes options or low cost other accessories which they want to basically bring it into the villages. Now coming about the language problem and everything, again I said, see, most of these companies, if you see, if you have gone through the PPT, I mean, most of the companies, they are using one of the influences in the villages. So that, be it a banking service, be it e-chopals, be it a milk company, be it HUL, everybody, even HUL Didi, they are also influencing, basically engaging on influencer. So Puma also has to do that, who will speak in the local language and who will tell about the product, and they need to train that. So these companies, what they do, they conduct a lot of training programs. So they have a trainer, and in the local language, who goes and train that particular influencer of the villages. I mean, they have small meetings and everything where they call in 7-8 influencers of from 7-10 surrounding villages. They sit at a sabha, and over there they organize some kind of goodies for these people, and then they train him, and they give different kind of small notes and different kind of handouts and everything where they can tell about the product. And in turn, these influencers go and speak to the consumers, because company directly will not be able to speak to all these consumers who are living in such a remote area and who have so much constraints in terms of literacy, in terms of other things. Even if they have to speak to a women audience, I mean, women audience will not come like this and speak to any outsider out over there, but they will speak to somebody who is within them, within the community. So they take out something, some one person, one influencer who is wanting to do something in life, and they train and they pay them some commission to spread the thing. So this is how they go about it.
Ma'am, in the same question, actually, she wanted to know also about when the customers are not aware about look-alike product, like the same color, similar type of spelling, but that is not original product. They are look-alike product. So because of unawareness, how the companies are tackling with such activities?
See, yeah. So that can be one of the issues with the companies, where the look-alike product or the can go and make a foreign. But what the companies are doing, see, there are two things again. In this again, first of all, networking. I mean, internet has reached the villages, and most of the people are aware. So they do a lot of campaigns. The company does a lot of campaign, and so they have to make certain advertisements and all, and they can share this through the messages or the WhatsApp, if WhatsApp is working out over there. That is one of the ways. Second, again, they have to depend a lot on these influencers only. They have to train the influencers how to make the people aware when they are going to buy a product, because again, now how will these villagers buy the product? Understand this, they will either come to this influencer to buy the product, or they will select a small an outlet which is selling this product in vicinity, right? So over there, I mean, this influencers will goes, they keep their handouts, they will train they'll have to train the villagers. I mean, that is the best they can do, and they do their own small communication campaigns where basically they can say do a message campaign or something, and where they can teach the consumer that how to be aware of the superior products. So that is the way they do it. There's no other way.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. My next
Yeah.
question to you is, as agriculture is main source of income, the demand or buying capacity is seasonal in rural India. So how companies can overcome these issues?
Yeah, so that is one issue which is there in rural India. I mean, because of the seasonality factor, the monies are limited, and it is during this times when the most of the companies does the sale. So every company has a flush and a lean season, right? So the thing is, they are well during the lean season. What the companies do, they like me also, when I mean, we have our flush and lean season. So during the lean season, the company make the strategies that how will they reach the maximum number of people during the flush season, and what would be, because that involves a lot of planning and other things. So maybe they are not making much profit during the lean season, but the thing is, if they do the right kind of planning, and they can reach at the right time, so when the right time will come, they will get the harvest monies. Like the farmers, when they get the harvest money, they will always obviously invest. But during the lean season, obviously company, there is a little growth is sluggish in all the companies, and they do a lot of planning during this time to reach out to these hinterlands.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So my next question for you is that there is a belief among the rural people that experience is more important than formal education, and they respect salesperson who can offer practical solution to their problems. So, ma'am, can you please suggest some skills that a rural marketer should rule to the market? Means in the video, in the PPT, it was there present, but just pointers in
I
kind
mean,
of point.
can you repeat the question? I mean,
There is a belief that the rural people that they believe in the experience rather than the
yeah.
formal education. They have this mindset. So just suggest some specific skills that a rural marketer to rule the market, for a rural marketer.
certain skills, yes, I would also say that experience is much more important than the formal education. Okay, formal education is obviously, you can rule out the importance of the formal education, because if the formal education is there, then obviously, I mean, with the experience, you will become more refined and more better. So that is there. But the thing is, even if you don't have a formal education, much formal education on rural marketing or something, the rule is that as many villages you can visit and as many as rural areas you can visit, because on ground training is the best source of training. So the first rule should be, I mean, sitting in your AC offices or something, you cannot have a sound knowledge of how the rural markets operate. For that, because from I myself have visited around like 100 to 200 remote villages in India. Okay, so I could understand how the people they react, what kind of apprehensions they have, what kind of, how will they warm up to the outsiders, and what kind of disposable incomes they have. So this is one of the basic things which any marketer should do. First of all, he should visit these places to understand a pilot, I mean few villages or few rural areas, hinterlands, how the people are operating. Second would be, they should also visit like this e-chopals and all the other Mahindra, the small centers of Mahindras or the Lal Dukans of Vodafone and all, to understand how they have been operating. So because the thing is, once you want to make it big in the rural market, you have to understand, you have to involve them in some loyalty kind of a program, a long-term loyalty program. So that is very important for any marketer if you wants to have a sustainable kind of connection with the hinterland. So the he has to build certain innovative programs. And more of second thing is that, rather than going in for more linguistic things, they should go in for more pictorial. When they are going for in for advertising or something, they should go in for more pictorial references, because it is easily understandable, and they can understand things properly. So these are the few things which a marketer should keep in mind when he wants to go into a rural market.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Thank you
the
so much.
scale of operations also, because operationally you have to be really strong.
Thank you so much, ma'am. My next question to you is that how do the impact of factors like brand ambassadors and reference group vary between urban and rural markets?
Come again, you're a little fast on this.
I'm so sorry for that. So, how do the impact of factors like brand ambassadors and reference group vary between urban and rural markets? Means, how do they vary? The brand ambassadors and the reference group, the impact of factors.
See, I mean, there's a lot of difference, because when in rural market, when you're going to the rural market, you have to be one of the influencer has to be one of the peer group person. Okay, so that is one of the most important thing. But when we are in the urban areas, I mean, your influences can't be one. Okay, peer group does hold a kind of an importance in the urban market, but then again, urban people are more attracted towards, I mean, towards your, I mean, you can say models. Towards you, it has to be very attractive. Aesthetic sense should be very high in the urban areas, and the creativity should be very high. But in the local language, the communication, the type of communication used is loud and very lingual. It need not be very creative, but it has to be very straight and loud. The communication has to be very crisp, few words, more pictorial and loud. But when in the urban, the communication can be more of, depending on the mood and the kind of audience which you are catering to, the kind of target audience is, whether if it's a very refined audience, you have to be more creative. Very, so there are different modes which you are using in urban areas, but in rural areas it has to be very crisp, loud and all. An influencer in the rural area has to be among one of the peers, and in the urban areas it has to be somebody, a high socialite, a model, a brand ambassador, like a sports ambassador or something. But even in the rural areas, if you more sports ambassadors are used, or some popular film star, even if you want to go with a, then it is very very different. But the thing is, the influencer has to be among one of the peers, definitely, in rural areas.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I would kindly request Dr. Sunita, ma'am, to please end the session with a vote of thanks. And if there's any question, then ma'am can ask you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. As you talked about a lot about influencers, so I think there is not a long time when we would start talking about rural e-marketing instead of rural marketing, right, ma'am?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. And so very soon we would start campaigning on the basis of rural e-marketing.
Yeah,
So,
yes, ma'am.
thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving an excellent coverage to the theme of the webinar. We sincerely appreciate your way of putting things in a simple and logical way. We are all grateful to you for exposing brighter sides of rural marketing. The Indian rural market, with its vast size and heterogeneous demand base, offer great and lucrative opportunities to marketers. Your today enlightening session would help our viewers to make strategies for tapping these opportunities. We owe you a special vote of thanks for being here and wish you to have you amongst us again and again. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Ekta
Director,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Your valuable time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.